It's the Stranger Nerds back here with Season 2, Chapter 3, The Pollywog. We have myself, Connor Vandermark. We have Mitchell Lee, Nick Izzo, and Tommy Grant. Gentlemen, this was a interesting one, and with the name of the chapter, we mentioned this over last talk's episode, The Pollywog. First thing I thought of with me and Izzo was the Pokemon Poliwhirl, or Poliwrath too, the evolution line of that. And I was like, oh, tadpoles. That would be fun.
Or the
And yeah,
easiest one, Pollywag, who is the original one before he evolves to Poliwhirl. Come on, you noob.
Poliwrath is badass. Don't give
But
me
correct.
Pollywag is literally a letter off from Pollywog.
I know, but like I said, the evolution line. You know what I mean.
So was anybody
Anyway.
depressed to not see a little blue Pollywag waddle onto screen?
It was still kind of cute.
See,
I
I was doing.
Oh yeah, real cute.
I was doing cool things when I was 9. So
I had Pokemon
I
Yellow,
don't know
sir.
what you're talking about.
I had Pokemon Yellow, and I was happy with it. Loved that game so much. Played it
You
so
were
many
doing
times.
something cool. I knew you at 9. You were not doing anything cool.
I was doing all the cool stuff when I wasn't with you. You were my my charity
Pokemon
case.
looks cool.
Racing
Pokemon
in the
feels-
Pinewood Derby for the Boy Scouts is not considered cool.
You take that back.
See, that's the time I spent with you guys. That was my work for charity.
that was his off season when he wasn't worried about sports.
Yeah, exactly. When I was 9 years old, not chain smoking cigarettes and yelling at the Jets.
Oh,
I need to see a picture of that.
Yeah, me too. we burned them all.
all right, we're going to dive right into this one to get things moving here, because we had enough shots to talk on the other podcast.
Yeah, for real. Pollywog.
So we start off with Dustin bringing his little Ghostbusters trap in. First encounter with Dustin's mom, and it is a comical one. It's just like that awkward encounter where she knows there's probably something in there. He's trying to hide it, and they're both just bouncing around the bush of like, what's going on? I don't have anything in here. I'm going to go to my room now. And he dumps it into the little turtle tank. He evicts the poor turtle, poor thing.
You're the turtle. That's a Dr. Seuss thing.
Is it?
Yes, it is.
Ah,
that was a book that my dad read me when I was younger. We had like a whole giant thick book of Dr. Seuss books that we had, and that was the first one. Yertle Turtle he literally builds a tower of turtles to heaven, pretty much, and then it falls down.
Interesting. Well, that's something I learned because I did not catch that. I was more interested in Dart's name is D'Artagnan. For those of you who do not know, that means
D'Artagnan, you uncold fuck.
All right, we'll say it with a French accent
I mean,
because it's a French name.
I wasn't going to say all that, but...
Say it with a French accent, Mitchell. Because you're not saying it right.
D'Artagnan.
There you go.
It's actually pretty good.
Because that is
That show was pretty good.
Tears from
Thank you.
French book. So if you didn't get the irony that he feeds Dart 3 Musketeers bars, that's why. It's a little, little play on word there. So did you know that, Mitchell?
Yes.
I don't think you did.
Yes, I did.
I definitely
did not
know
that. Yeah. That's,
I'm always educating Nick. It's always a privilege. But so we see that little Dart does not like the sun, does not like the heat. So that kind of gives you a little play of what did we originally think it was when we saw it? Other than just the fake.
Didn't Connor and Nick
Pokemon.
give predictions on that, or am I tripping there?
We didn't see it last episode.
Yeah.
Sort of did. I mean, we predicted what it would be. I don't think we exactly knew.
Well, once we did make predictions on it, but once I off the air after I read the episode name, I was like, oh crap, yeah, to be a tadpole.
Yeah.
It kind of just clicked in that instance. Like
But
one thing is like
this
realize
is the first time we actually got to see little Dart and what it was.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure what your initial
Yeah.
reaction to seeing Dart was. But anyway, so we get a little interaction with Dustin bonding with his new pet. And then we quickly move over to Steve and Nancy having some more drama. And I'm sure Mitchell was not happy with this interaction between Steve and Nancy.
What do you mean? I
Really?
was thrilled.
You were thrilled.
Yes, because
Really?
right now, because here's the thing: I am
I don't
team
don't-
Steve as
I don't
far as
blame-
Nancy goes.
Hold on, Connor.
go
Let
ahead,
Mitchell explain
yeah,
himself.
let me draw my outline right here. Okay, as far as Steve, as far as Nancy goes, and as far as the
Draw your
love triangle goes,
Draw your
Connor,
triangle.
damn it, Connor, let me finish.
Draw.
Steve, Nancy, damn it, Connor, you're messing me up. Nancy,
Point
as far
one
as
for
Nancy
Connor.
goes, as far as Nancy goes, Steve is the right call. As far as Steve goes, somebody else. Figure it out, because Nancy is not in her. It's not working right now. And the whole, first of all, she should have been hungover. She showed up at school the next day like everything was all good, and I'm like, why aren't you hungover?
Thank you
Why
for mentioning that.
why are you not
That's my
asking for a
thoughts.
Tylenol or an ibuprofen or throwing up in the bathroom? Something. Not even sunglasses. Should be hungover. But Steve earned the right to say, "Hey Nancy, so that stuff that you said, I'm not cool with that." And yeah, no, I didn't take you home. That was Jonathan that did that. So I'm gonna go play basketball and get dunked on by this probably guy that's hitting on me but kind of bullying me at the same time. I had that whole 80s Top Gun, we're straight but not really vibe going on to it with the basketball game. Was kind of similar to the volleyball game in Top Gun, where it's like, all right, yeah,
There
sure.
is no comparison. Do not compare those two scenes. But I'm going to stop you right there, Mitchell. Connor, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
I am with no. I was not trying to rebuttal. I'm saying yes. I agree with you, this, but I'm going to turn on his head a little bit. I'm team anti Nancy. Like she
Still.
is.
Yeah.
I'm still,
At the moment.
honestly, I still anti Nancy because I think that she keeps doing the wrong thing, and she is like it's a situation where Steve's actually trying to do it in the best interest of her, and she's becoming more of a, I guess, rebellious phase. It's not really the right word because of the fact that she is going through like her own trauma and crap, but like, therapy, it doesn't really exist in the 80s. So
It's like, and tease of things to come. At some point, I will be reviewing the Twilight movies in the next few years, probably. But in those movies, it is very much like, yeah, Team Edward, Team Jacob, just Team not Bella. There's got to be other women in this town, right? Like
Exactly.
that's the way. And I don't.
Mhm.
I promise it's not an anti-woman thing. It's just with Nancy. It's like
Better not be.
Nancy needs to go find herself. Nancy needs to figure out who is Nancy.
Yes.
What does
Yes.
does Nancy want?
Exactly.
You see, Mitchell, Nancy didn't have life coach Mitchell to stand behind her and help
Nah,
her realize this
No,
issue
because
she was having.
Because her dad's basically a 2x4, non-existent. Honey, can you change the TV or like it just non-existent?
Okay, I'm gonna throw a very 92,000 kid reference, but it's Plank from Ed, Ed and
And
Eddie.
Ed and Eddie.
That is a better
Yes.
father than her
Yeah.
father.
Just draw some googly eyes on this guy, and that's what you got there for a dad. So I'm not surprised that Nancy. Hey, as far as Nancy's dad goes, this was one of the more positive outcomes of what things could happen.
Yes.
You know what? And you know what? I'm going to give a little extra point to Jonathan because Jonathan even says to Nancy that, hey, Steve asked him to take her home. He covered for Steve. He made him look like a better guy. Nancy thought that he just abandoned her at the party. Jonathan was a bro. He stepped up for Steve. So point for Jonathan.
And he even said that he was very worried about her still and
Yeah.
and you can still see like Steve is still worried, but like you're not even apologizing for what you said. Like you're
Yep.
just making
He's
excuses for it.
he has been well. Steve's got his own. Again, he's got uh
Steve's
the
fighting
whole.
immaturity at this point.
No, Steve's fighting shit. Am I gay? That's what he's fighting right now with him and Iceman. I mean, whatever the hell his name is.
Billy.
Billy, yeah.
Really.
But
Yeah,
between that
Spiller.
thing going on and Jonathan is doing the right thing and he's a lot more low key so far. He's just kind of letting everything come to him as opposed to the whole panicked, which makes sense because his brother was missing. He would be a lot more panicked in season 1 than he is in season 2. So I am more on Jonathan's side right now than I have been in the past. But right now, I think the love triangle is, hey, all the angles just need to separate and figure out what each side is doing and who
And-
they are.
And there's also a bit of a trauma bonding between Jonathan and Nancy because of the
Yes.
the shit that they
Well,
went
that's
through.
purely what their relationship is at this point. It's
It's
a
trauma
trauma
bonding.
bonding relationship.
Yeah.
So
And because you know what, every time they hang out, it instantly goes back to how can we figure out how to take down the government? How can we help Barb's family? And that's what we get to next is they're hanging out and Nancy instantly is just like she sees a kid with like a recording tape and all of a sudden gets this like bright idea of like, hey Jonathan, you want to skip class and go do some bad shit with me? And Jonathan, of course, willingly agrees to go with her. And they have a stupid idea of calling Barb's mom to set up a meeting with Hawkins' lab listening in because, do we think this was intentional? Do you think Nancy thought it was going to be a recorded call? What did you guys
To
think?
me,
What did you think her plan was at this point?
I just think she was just being dumb. That's how
Yeah.
that's originally played it off to
Yeah.
me as. I was like, what are you
Yeah.
doing?
What was Nancy's plan? And my answer is she had a plan.
At this point in the
it did
episode,
not
I
appear
wasn't
to be
sure.
so. Yeah.
I wasn't sure, and I still am not sure if she had the thought that hey, maybe they are still listening in on the calls when she made that phone call.
Mm-hmm.
But part of me thinks she knew because
Isn't
Barb
the
is the only
strongest.
oddball character
I
because
don't-
the public still doesn't know. The public doesn't have a confirmation of if there's no body. So the government's still trying to actively cover this up. So
And-
I'm
and-
sure all the phones are tapped.
Yeah, and I bet Hopper gave him the lowdown to him. Like, yeah, don't talk this ever over the phone.
Yeah.
Like, don't even mention it because they're always listening.
We call back to a previous episode that Tommy and I did. That whole kind of Spielbergian, no one is smarter than the kids thing, and no one is dumber than the teenagers. The kind of preteen kids have a good idea what's going on. The teenagers have other stuff that's going to kind of, dilute their good judgment, I guess. And
Hormones.
you do there you go. So you get a good bit of that in this. This is not the strongest part of the Nancy Wheeler character arc. If you like good choices.
That's fair. So to move on from there, we go to Joyce and Bob. They don't really have a big role in this episode either. We're kind of going in order of kind of importance at this point. But Bob brings up to Joyce the fact that his camera was dinged up on it and he was watching the recording and saw those kids picking on Will. So I thought it was kind of sweet seeing Bob being so concerned about Will, and it's kind of something we see over the next couple episodes too, is like how Bob actively is trying to be a father to Will, even though he's just simply dating Joyce at this point. There's no
Bob's the best.
I don't think there's anything serious going on, but Bob's definitely taking his role seriously, and I love it because who wouldn't want Samwise Gamgee as their dad?
It's true. It's a great point.
Well, he's also.
I mean, I like the dad I have, but yeah, you make a good point.
Like the one thing that I guess things are different back in the 80s, like comes like the marriage and stuff. Like for example, my parents, they got engaged after 9 months, so like in that they were young, but like I know these guys they're older, but like it does feel like it's only been a year, and like how fast at least Bob sees them as like, oh, let's move somewhere. You mentioned at the end of the last episode.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like he sees a future and that he wants to be in the boys' lives, and it's definitely a foil to their actual father. I can't remember the guy's name, rightfully so, and because of the fact that like he actually wants to put the effort in and actually make memories with them and do things where no, he's trying to be like, oh, I'm the fun dad in a way, but at the same time like he's willing to make himself vulnerable for others. Like he had the story to uh with Will on the drive over to school, like, hey, no, I had nightmares, no, this is what I had to deal with this crazy clown. And like this, like, no, I kept running, but I eventually I stood up, and once I stood up to myself, the clown went away. And obviously we'll get to later on, but it made an impact on Will.
Yep. It
I'm trying
definitely
to find that guy's name because
What guy?
The useless father.
yeah, I'm blanking on it now. Why do I feel like it rhymes
You
with
mean
doofus?
Mike's dad, or
No, it
Will
doesn't
Smith.
rhyme with It doesn't rhyme with doofus. It's Lonnie. Lonnie does not
Lonnie.
rhyme with doofus. Okay.
Hold on. So was that actually so actually was that it reference? You have it in the show doc here. I didn't pick that up. I never watched it.
It wasn't a direct reference, but Bob did mention that he grew up in Maine, which I think in last episode he mentioned it. But Maine,
Tommy.
What?
You are doing a great job of picking up on this stuff because that one I did not pick up. I picked up on the reference of it, but him being from Maine.
Yeah,
Tommy.
he did make that's
Now-
who he wants to go to.
The goated one.
Now keep going with that, Mitchell. What does that also imply for Stephen King fans?
Well, yeah, Maine
Every
is where.
goddamn thing that Stephen King writes takes place in Maine,
Yeah.
which is where I'm getting the it reference for Connor, who's just looking blank faced.
Well, not the shine.
Again, I'm not a huge Stephen King fan. I think I never really.
So the infamous like kind of trope with Stephen King novels is they all take place in Maine. And it being a very infamous novel that Stephen King wrote also takes place in a town called Derry, which is in Maine. Yep. So I think by him saying it was a clown when he was a kid, I'm assuming that's an it reference, but it wasn't a direct reference.
And fun fact, at least to me, this season came out in October of 2017. And the first It movie came out in September of 2017. So there was a good chance that it was still in theaters when this came out. So you could kind of do like a weird, like, just kind of Stephen King-ish vibe. Oh, it was a fantastic movie.
But anywho,
I can't go
so
see something like
Steve,
that.
Izzo, we're gonna bring you into a horror trip one day. I can't wait.
I will
But
never
it's
talk
gonna
to
have to be
any
an
of you ever
in-person.
again. I am so
It will
serious.
be.
Don't
an
even do that.
in-person viewing. I'll hold your hand through the whole experience, so you don't have to
Wait,
get
what?
scared.
No.
Wait, what is
We'll
this?
we'll get you through this. We will get you
Don't
through
even
it.
Find me there.
What are you doing?
Watching horror movie. Nick is
Nick
horrified
just-
of horror movies.
See, I thought that I would be, and I jumped
No?
into the deep end. My first horror
That's
movie
false.
was the
Well,
Evil Dead
what's wrong
remake.
with seeing it?
I was talking about the clowns.
Oh, you're horrified of clowns. My apologies.
Oh, okay.
But even
well-
still, we're gonna get you to watch it.
Don't blame
Yeah.
you. I hate clowns too.
No, clown, no.
It'll be a team bonding experience. We'll watch it.
Clowns
I'm
together.
going
stuck
to
Part
I'm
1 and
going
2.
to show up in full clown makeup to the next podcast.
Great,
I
I won't be there.
I will
I won't be there.
I'll remove you off the recording. I just say goodbye.
I ain't looking at that.
So, to get the idea of clowns out of your brains, the one important aspect of this scene as well is while Bob drives Will to school, Joyce is at home looking at the tape, and she actually sees in like kind of the fizzing of the recording, she sees the image that matches up with the same thing that Will has been drawing over and over, saying, "Oh, it's nothing." So now she's putting it together of, "Oh shit, he's actually seeing this thing. It's not just he's been lying to me this whole time." So that's definitely something important because now Joyce is going back to the who do I talk to about this now? So we're gonna definitely see her struggle and figure out how she's gonna confront Will over, hey, you've been lying to me about the fact that you're seeing shit, and your episodes are getting worse. So that's definitely important to look at. Um,
Did you catch too
switching,
how annoyed everybody was too when Joyce was calling?
yeah.
They're like, "Oh, it's her again." Like, part of me was like,
Joyce is just
"Geez, like she thought like her son died. Like, give her some slack." But then I'm like, she probably did call like 30 times a day, every
jo-
day. Like, I could see why.
Joyce's paranoia has just kind of driven the whole town crazy, and it also
Seems
doesn't
like it.
help that nobody else in the town knows why she's so paranoid,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
definitely doesn't help Joyce's fact, at least, because they're probably like, "Oh, Hopper's not in right now. We'll leave a message," and probably don't even pass the message on to Hopper. So she's probably calling so many times, and no messages are being taken down because no one's taking her seriously at this point. She's the boy who called Wolf. Like anything that happens, it's an issue. So switching over to more important characters in this episode, we get a little more backstory with 11 and Hopper's relationship, which is definitely an interesting one because they're trying to build a father-daughter relationship out of the two of them, but it turns more into a Hopper's a security guard for 11 in some points and not a dad figure. And we see the conflict over and over with the flashbacks where it started off nice, they're peaceful and calm, relaxed, but over time as 11's been trapped in that house or cabin for longer and longer, it's like a ticking time bomb of just emotion ready to explode. And we see that when she starts smashing plates and cursing at Hopper and just storming off into her room. And it's just it makes you look bad on Hopper a little bit. As much as I love Hopper, he just doesn't know how to handle a teenage girl who doesn't know how to handle her emotions well and has powers to use. So that's been a very interesting relationship to look at in this episode.
When I saw this, as I have it on my notes on my phone, two things. Well, the first, talking about the actual relationship, it's very much Hopper trying. The phrase is trying to have your cake and eat it too,
Yeah,
where he wants to have, because he himself has trauma over his own daughter dying, and he wants to be the father figure for her, trying to be the nice dad and everything. But at the same time, he also is conflicted with this other part where she is literally in danger anytime she's outside this cabin. I can't have her do that, and especially other people knowing that she still exists. And no, it's definitely a situation where he's stuck between a rock and a hard place in a way where you know he wants to fill the void of, oh, I have a daughter again, but at the same time this daughter is wanted by anyone because they think she's a Russian spy who is actually a super weapon and all that crazy crap. um and another comment that I liked that was very funny, because I use the when I used to coach travel hockey for my 12 and 16-year olds, one thing I used to always tell them, I always laughed when I heard it, was like the don't be stupid rules, because I had the same exact thing, not even seeing the show. My one rule to my kids was like, guys, don't be stupid. If I think it's stupid, it's probably stupid. Don't be stupid. And it usually worked. No, I had one or two that always were no. The I guess the way to put it, the troublemakers of the group. But at the same time, like it usually got through, and I thought it was very funny. Like he gave that kind of same speech to L, like, here's the rules. Don't be stupid. Don't break them.
yeah. Gotta love, don't be stupid rules. We have
Yes.
them for a reason, and we always break them. And
I thought the montage was very nice too, with them doing the cleanup. The great music choice in that one.
Yeah, and it shows kind of the corny, fun dad character that Hopper was trying to be, and how it's evolved into more of the I'm here to protect you. I don't care what you have to say. You're staying here.
And the guilt tripping too, of like, oh, I have these nice candy elf waffles ready for you. I'm like, oh my god, like,
it reminded me of Elf at that point.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was like, he's on the Will Ferrell Elf diet.
I just watched that like 2 days ago too, so yeah, I get that.
So it was definitely I was like, oh, that actually kind of looks good. But we see 11 break the don't be stupid rule, and she leaves the cabin without her little ghost disguise either. She just goes out.
She didn't just break the don't be stupid rule. She just decided, you know what?
She gave it the middle finger.
I don't want to just break the rule. I want to become the reason the rule exists. And just went out and started having conversations with people, and it was stupid.
Yes, that scene pissed me off so much.
Like, you're not supposed to be doing this. What can you gain out of this?
The thing that bothers me the most with that scene is we know 11 has the powers and abilities to locate anyone in the world at any point in time. She knows who Mike is. All she has to do is use her powers to find where Mike is. She knows he's at the school, which she has also been to before. In season 1, at the very end, they were there. She knows where it is. Why did you walk up to some random woman and her child and say, "School? Where is school?" Like, what the fuck are you doing? Just sit there, use your powers, find him, and go incognito and go to him. Why would you have to go up to some random people? I don't get it.
My only argument thinking about that now is that she was coming from the cabin as opposed to Mike's basement. So
true.
my guess would be her current surrounding, her specific surrounding at that moment. She just, I guess, didn't know where she was. I don't know. That's the mental map. Think of.
No, I that's how I took it as well. It's like her mental map was, I know how to get to Mike's house. Yeah, Mike's house at school, but
okay.
I don't know this town.
Counterpoint to that, season 1, she leads the party to Will's house to find Will. She had never been there before.
She's also been in the cabin for almost a year by herself, going stir crazy.
She could have used her powers to find Mike. Bottom
Maybe
line,
she can echolocate like a dolphin.
Can't rule it out at this point, you know?
I mean, she got powers. I don't know.
So are you just anticipating one day just seeing 11 just open her mouth and just do a funny dolphin noise and just echolocate?
I tell you what, the day that happens, I will give that episode a fucking 10 because that will make me laugh so much that I will have to give it a 10.
It's no spoiler, but I'm disappointed that doesn't happen in the show yet. Season 5.
Tragic.
Call the writers, make it happen. But anyway, so we see Hopper go out to the local pumpkin patches to continue the investigation on the pumpkin serial killer, as Nick calls him. And they start taking samples, and he kind of realizes what's going on and calls Dr. Owens and basically says, "Hey, this is all stemming from the lab. Look into this shit." And which is right after he gets a call about some girl who basically saw 11, and Hopper knows exactly what happened, has to storm off again. But it was an interesting interaction between him and Dr. Owens of Hopper kind of putting the ball into Dr. Owens' court of, you need to figure this shit out.
And that radio call came at the wrong time. Like, you had to be right next to him, like, oh, the Russian girl. Now, and Owen's like, ooh.
And and Hopper knew it too. He was like, I just gave away like all my cards, and that was probably also the reason he rushed a little bit faster to his car.
Yeah, you're like fuck.
But so that was kind of a little Hopper interaction. We didn't really get much of him in this episode either. But we'll definitely see him and Dr. Owens probably interact more throughout the season because it's been an interesting interaction between the two of them, kind of powerhousing it throughout this episode. Now we switch back to the party for the remainder of the episode because Dustin is just fully intrigued into what the hell Dart is. And he just still hasn't figured out that it's just a, little monster from the upside down, probably, because it's probably what Will spit out last episode or 2 episodes ago. That's what I'm still convinced is where it came from. But Dustin's at the library using his excuse of I'm on a curiosity voyage to try and get more books out of the library.
Steals the books.
Steals the books like a true champ. That scene makes me laugh every time. Like, Dustin is the perfect comedic relief for the show. Until we meet Murray, which I can't wait for you guys to meet Murray because he's definitely the other big comic relief for this season, but we'll get there soon. But Dustin just his lines are perfect in the show. He executes them perfectly. But Lucas then tells Max a fictionalized version of what happened to Will because Max is still trying to pry, and Lucas is the only one that seems to talk to her, and he's being smart and not telling her anything, but I'm almost curious if he's doing it to protect her or if he doesn't want to piss off the party, because at this point, I feel like one of them could have slipped up and told her just a tiny bit of information, but they're all keeping their lips sealed.
Like, I think Lucas is trying to play both sides. Of course, he likes Max, and but like, it's very funny because it's nice to see this too, having like the outside perspective of like Max, who just came to school. I'm like, so what's the deal with Will? And it's like, well, like I was like, why they call him Zombie Boy? Like I was like, oh well, they said he died. Like it was only gone a week, and I was like, they did a funeral for him. He's like, what? Like he's only gone a week. Like it's like, yeah, no, we thought he died. There's a body that was found, and she's like, the hell happened here last year? Like this is wild.
It's a good town story to tell the new people.
Oh, it definitely is, but like,
it's nice to have the character of Max because, if you just kind of ran it back with all the same people, you got someone just going, what the hell am I walking into? What am I getting into? And she is such on a completely different side of things than Billy is, because Billy just walks in like, hey, this town's my bitch. I'm going to, I'll leave some women for you, Steve. Yeah, sure. And now Max is coming in like any of us would, like, what the hell is this place and what happens to people here?
Yeah. So after that, we get the party in science class with Mr. Clark, and he's giving them a lecture about the story of Phineas Gage, who had a rod basically shoved through his brain and survived. And the only important part of the scene
was an accident, Tommy. He wasn't in a Saw movie.
Hey, you don't know what happened. You weren't there.
I learned about it in psychology class.
And you know what? History is always changed, and it's always kind of a slurred point of view. We don't know what actually happened.
You're right. You have a good point. If you go to a school in Florida, you might, find out that, a Ford Focus was the first president of the United States.
But anyway, the whole importance behind that lecture is kind of a discussion about how the personality was changed after that, and we're obviously looking at Will, who has some sort of entity in his head or some sort of trauma in his head, but Will's personality has changed since he has come back from the upside down, and it's kind of a foreshadowing of what's to come for Will kind of scene. which I
He
thought
did.
it was very well done. It was kind of, hey, this is what's going on, but you didn't need to have a whole conversation of some person just doing dialogue to explain it. It was kind of it served the purpose of the scene, showed the kids in class. You have Dustin barging in, being that obnoxious kid that always there was always that one kid in class who just had to be loud and obnoxious when they came in late, as if like the world revolved around them. It's just like, shut the fuck up, come in and sit down. And Dustin
Um,
kind of does that.
Before we go
Go
any
ahead.
further, I want to go back to the brain thing. Because no, if you recall back to the first season, he had a thing up his nose that it was up his nose, right? Where that Hopper pulled out from him. Was it in his mouth or
Uh,
something?
I think it was the throat.
It was somewhere where he had to pull that whole thing out of him. I
I'm
forget
pretty
what it
sure it was
was.
the throat because we made the clown joke of the
The
non-ending
rope.
handkerchief.
Yeah, but still, like that thing was in him. Like, and when it comes to like medical research, especially when it comes to the brain, like best being around like the 1900s, where the best information on how the brain worked back then is understanding people who had brain damage and the effect that that brain damage did. So, like, if you were brain damage, or in this case, when it comes to Phineas Gage, it was a certain location in the brain. I forget the exact spot, but like because there was an effect on that location in the brain, we actually started realizing, oh, this part of the brain controls this type of function or emotion.
Yeah. So is science lesson over?
Yes, I am the
um,
scientist here, so
I know.
I would have
I
failed big time
enjoy
if I
little
was
science
in
lessons.
if I was in
We
your
learn
class. I
something
would have
new every
failed big
day.
time.
But so we get Dustin coming in. He tells them all meet at the AV club after class, and they have a whole debate over what the hell Dart is. Max, of course, is excluded from the conversation because she's not part of the party and isn't allowed to see it.
no, she was
And
there.
was she there? Let's see. I thought she
She was
wasn't
she
there.
was there because it went to her hands first. Like, oh, it's slimy, and then
Oh,
Lucas
that's
mentioned,
right.
yeah, she was there for see what Dart was. What was different was when after they saw Dart, Will made the connections like, I think I spit that thing out of my mouth,
That's right. Yep.
and then he just tells it to Mike. Mike took the initiative, like, oh shit, he's about to show someone who has no clue what's going on, and
Mr. Clark,
Mr. Clark, and
who
is like,
who Dustin was very adamant about. This is my discovery, not yours, which I
yes,
thought was great.
yeah, like I don't. Hey, that happens in academia, so like I don't blame him, and it's actually like even now it still happens, and yeah, like, and Mike coming in is like just barging in, and grabbing it, and like we're going now, just yells it, and just like takes initiative, like we need like this could be serious stuff, and then that's when the whole behind locked door talk happened.
I always find it comical with the party and how terrible they are at being discreet. When something bad happens, it's just instantly like, we need to go now. Not like, hey, let's come up with some like awkward little thing of, hey, we have this to go to. It's no, come in, be loud and obnoxious, say, hey, we need to go. Something bad's about to happen. Leaving the adults completely clueless is like, are these kids insane or is something actually of concern? And you always notice how none of the adults ever follow up of, hey, is something wrong? It's just,
Yeah,
oh, just kids being kids. Off
Yeah,
they go.
they were so oblivious.
but the thing is, like, I
That's
don't
bad.
blame Mike goes out because I don't
Yeah.
blame Mike because like the seriousness of like, oh crap, we're dealing with the upside down again, like no bueno.
Yeah. So after that, we kind of see the party split at this point because this is where they go have the second meeting with Outmax. And Lucas and Mike want to take Dart to Hopper. And Dustin does not want that because he thinks Hopper's just going to kill it, which most likely is true. Um, so the next thing you know, Max breaks in after Mike attacks it, and Dart escapes, and there's a whole chase throughout the school.
Hold on, it sprouted two legs first.
It did sprout two legs. So it started its evolution into Pollywog. We just didn't get to see its full evolution yet.
Yes.
It's true.
And that's where we kind of see a bunch of chaos just kind of occur where they're just kind of running all over the school looking for Dart. And eventually Dustin finds it, and
No, Will finds it.
Will, yeah, Will finds it in the
Will finds
in the
it,
bathroom.
radios it in, and no, lets the group know like, hey, he's in this bathroom next to his teacher's room, and then uh, did it make a sound at him, and he started running, and that's when the vision started happening for him.
Yeah. But before that happened, we had an interaction with Mike and
That's right,
Max,
with Max.
which I know you were looking forward to talking about because for those non D&Ders out there, Mitchell, I'm looking at you. We get a little bit of a breakdown of the different classes in D&D because Max was trying to ask Mike like, "Hey, why am I not allowed your party?" And Mike gives the explanation of like, "Our party's full, all of the roles are filled. We don't have anything for you. Not a we don't want you, it's we don't have room for you."
And then the first mention of 11 comes up to Max. It's like, who the hell is
Yes.
L? Well, not L, but L. It's like, who is
Yeah,
L?
Mike dropped the ball on that one.
Yeah, and um, yeah, and like I was very much a situation. Max was like, who is this other person? And then, I guess we'll get into it in a second. I'll talk about it now. We'll get to the classes in a
Yeah,
second.
get it over with.
Then L found the school finally, and then saw Mike and Max together, and oh man, she got jealous. Holy!
I was surprised it wasn't worse because the look on Eleven's face was just pure betrayal and hatred.
And
And
Max,
you see the little head snap, and I was like, "Oh, did she like break Max's leg or something?" But no, she didn't do that. I was
and
kind of surprised she didn't.
Max made eye contact with L, correct? Because I think that was implied, but I want to confirm that was my thought.
I don't think so
I don't think so
because
either.
I feel like if she
No.
did, I feel like she would have said to Mike like, "Hey, who the hell is that?" Or is that 11?
There, because to me, right in that scene, it looked like the spot where Max was on her board, bullshitting with Mike, like kind of like joshing with him, and she turns and Max sees her through the door, and then no, she's still going around, and then that's when L did the the board rip out from underneath her. But like I
Yeah.
don't, I think it's a situation like Max is like, oh, who the hell is this weird girl watching us, not knowing that's L. It was more so like because no, of course she's out and about, and like no, of course no one really knows her existence or other than the family now, the mom and daughter. But like no, like it's kind of a situation where like oh, I never seen her before, and she happened to be there. Like oh, I might have been seeing things or something. But I'm assuming when Elle comes back up again, and with the assumption that she's going to meet up with the group, Max is like, oh, you're that person that I saw in the gymnasium, and no, definitely a little more to be some tension in there. So all right, anything else before I talked about classes for a quick few minutes
Nope.
or
Drop
minute?
it.
Cool. So this is the first time we actually got actual official classes for each character other than Will. Even Will, he said he was a wizard in the last season, if I remember correctly. But yeah, we had Mike, who's the paladin, Will, who's a cleric, Dustin, bard, Lucas, ranger, and L is the mage. So paladins are classes that are very protected. I play more Pathfinder these days, more known as champions. They are usually a kind of a warrior who takes part of a deity. Generally speaking, good, but you can have evil paladins as well. But they kind of are the quote unquote knight in shining army, the tenants of good who try to bring out goodness to the world, either through following the law or redemption or any of those kind of narratives that you want to go off of. You have clerics who are pretty much priests in a way. They can be the different types of clerics, war clerics, light clerics, so on and so forth. Pretty much more healing kind of casters. They are someone who is bound by faith, but more on the spell casting side of things. And then you have Dustin, who's the bard, which makes complete sense to me. And it's nice how like the character lines up to the personalities of them. So Dustin's bards are very much musical themed or even artistic, very much goofing around, and more a lighthearted character. Rangers, which is Lucas, are more woodsmen, like the hunt, They could be very crafty, even could be more rogue-like, stealing things, or rogues are more. I don't know if I'm sure they're classed back in the older D&D games, but like they're very much more craftier and more in tune with nature in that instance. And then, of course, mages are magic based. Um, Different type of mages. You have warlocks who are more seek to a patron, kind of like paladins are in a way. Wizards who are more learn from the books, and then you have sorcerers who are more innate. And I would say Elle will fit on more the sorcerer domain because it is an innate ability, and she doesn't learn her magic through um, a um, through books or anything like that. It's more like, oh, it was just this is who I am. And then when it comes to Max, which kind of funny how Mike put it, like Max, like, oh, Mike's like, oh, we don't have any more room for your party. Like, he's like, there's no way you can fit in. But as someone who does play these kind of games, like I can definitely see Max as more like a frontline like fighter slash monk in a way where you have someone who is because you have someone helping out in the front lines, drawing away attacks from your spellcasters and or your healers. In that case, it'd be Will as a cleric, and definitely more of in your face kind of situations. And I can Max definitely kind of pegs that to me, which I think she can definitely fit in, quote unquote, as the party dynamic for that. So yeah, I thought it was very interesting how like each party member has a associated class that does fit with them very well. Um, I'm not sure
Yeah.
with Will yet, with Cleric yet, but because obviously he's currently going through and having visions and stuff, so I want to see how that goes with. But
I
everything
think
else,
we'll definitely come back to that after the end of this season to kind of touch base on what their characters actually came out to do in terms of what their actual role was.
mm-hmm.
So I think we can revisit at the end of the season to kind of look back and say, were these roles accurate for what their characters did? Because I can definitely see some comparisons to their D&D characters versus themselves. But I think we should definitely start wrapping up the episode.
Yep.
With the final scenes where Joyce calls to talk to Mr. Clark and finds out that I think it was AV Club is what she was asking about, but AV Club was canceled or it didn't happen. So Joyce immediately goes into panic mode and just fucking flies to go find Will. And we see Will outside facing the shadow monster and taking Bob's advice, decides to turn and face it, which I think was a foolish move. I think he should have just kept running, but I think it was inevitable at this point. But the shadow monster finally gets him, and we end the episode of the monster just attacking Will.
One more thing too,
And
Dustin hides the
yes.
hide start as well. Dustin will take start, puts in his hat, and brings him home.
Yes. So that is the end of this episode. So what I originally said was definitely a filler episode. It was a good episode, but I want to jump right into the ratings while we discuss this. But I think I would give it a 7.5 only because it felt too much like a filler episode to me. Not anything really important, with the exception of the final couple scenes. It was just more backstory. Nothing critical happened. We just got more backstory on Eleven and Hopper's relationship. More relationship drama with the love triangle. More relationship building with Bob and Joyce. We see a little bit more, I guess, inner conflict happening with the party in terms of Dart and Will and how to handle it and how to handle the information with Max. But outside of the relationship building, nothing happened in this episode that was critical. So 7.5, and my Mitchell score, I'm going to say a 6.2. 2.4.
All right.
6.224? You think I'm going the 3 decimals?
No, just 2.4.
6 point. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll go. I thought it was good. I just, if you've been listening to our podcast, I usually rate higher, and I definitely fell along this side again. Like I rate higher than everybody else, but I'm still in the line of what I think. I gave it an 8.2. I thought it was very good. First, again, filler, but like I like the stuff that's going on. I thought there was a lot of intrigue and no, is it an exciting episode? Some would, I guess, you guys
For
can say
for a
not really,
first
but
time watcher, I can understand why it's more intrigue, but it's one of those after you've seen it a few times, this is definitely an episode. It's like I could
Mhm.
just skip this one. Like nothing important happens.
yeah, I can know I can definitely understand that. So, but I'm again very much enjoying it.
Yeah,
I thought it was much better than
and that's
last
a
week,
good thing.
but like I was definitely I am intrigued overall. For Mitchell score, I will give it 6.56.
Oh, both in the sixes for him. Wow. Okay. Um, yeah, I'm on the same boat as you, Tommy. This episode definitely was a filler for me. Nothing really stood out. It just was a very relationship building heavy episode. So I would really, I'm giving it a flat 7. It wasn't bad. I didn't think it was, particularly all that great, but it kept my interest enough for me to be like, yeah, it was okay.
Okay. Would you say you were displeased with the progression of the story?
Not displeased because I know that filler episodes have to happen, but
Yeah.
I was just like, I
This
guess I
filler was
thought
not
more was gonna
to
happen.
my didn't take
Not to
to
my
my
liking.
liking very much. I am
It
Nicholas
didn't tantalize
Nicholas F.
Oh,
Izzo.
it didn't tickle my fancy.
Was
There
it
we go.
grape? Was it grape, not apple,
Was it
or
what?
type of pie fillings? Pie fillings, no grape filling versus apple filling.
What the hell are you saying?
I really don't know what you're talking
Talking
about.
you talking to
thinking,
me?
talking about fillings. No, not as flavorful
Oh.
fillings.
I see what
So-
you did there. It was stupid, but I see it.
Yeah, guess what? It happens. Deal with it. It's
So
staying
Nick gave
in.
it a flat 7. What's your Mitchell rating, Izzo?
Oh, that's right. My Mitchell rating is going to be 7.22.
All right, Mitchell, reveal
Drum
your
roll,
card.
please.
So, my grade for this episode, you guys are usually very on point with this. Not this week. Not this week.
Oh.
This week, I give it a 7.86.
Wow, you went
That's
really
that's
high.
that's the grade that I went with. I thought it was enjoyable. I definitely think it's a step up from last week. Favorite episode of the season thus far. I can definitely see what things are building towards, but it still wasn't. We're not quite where we were at season 1, where every episode I gave an 8.2 or higher. We have yet to cross that 8 threshold for season 2. So
That's correct.
I'm hopeful. I trust the makers of the series, and obviously I've been down this road before, and I know that season 2 is my least favorite one. But as someone who's going through and kind of, it's been a long time since I've watched. It's been 6 years since I've seen season 2, and I remember things kind of turning around a little bit and getting more invested by the end. So, trust that we're going in the right place.
So that is a combined 7.64 for this episode, which is a 0.01 more than the first episode, which I think is very funny. Anything else, gentlemen?
No,
Predictions?
That
Yeah,
wraps
predictions.
that
Do you want to get through?
Yeah. If
Yeah.
you and Nick have any predictions for next episode.
Yeah, the one I had definitely was definitely Nancy was going to get caught because dumb teenager shit.
Yeah.
And then of course the Pollywog is just going to keep growing because obviously that's how escalation happens.
Yeah, I really didn't have much of a prediction except for the for Dart. I just figured that he was, gonna stir up some ish, as they call it.
Sure.
That's really it. That's all I got.
Fair enough.
Alrighty then. So that's it for this week of Stranger Nerds. Next week's episode, I had the show doc here here before. We do episode 4, and you don't have it on the name on this one. That's right.
Will the Wise.
Will the Wise. Thank you. I
You're welcome.
always need a tag team on that sometimes. Thank you very much. Don't forget to follow our socials at Stranger Nerds on Instagram, X, and any other socials we have. I think Facebook as well.
Don't call it that.
That's
X.
I know it's
Stop it.
Well, they
It's
got called
Twitter.
it X once.
Twitter. Well,
Twitter.
Yeah.
that's it for this week, and we will see you guys around for next week for episode 4. Have a good one.